Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to part two of orientation training. We are focusing on registration preparation today. My name is Amy Hackett. I use she, her pronouns, and I work in the Office of Undergraduate Education. Orientation is fastly approaching us, and as you stretch into the summer months to come, I hope you're able to harness some of the hope and joy that students bring with them as they go through this rite of passage. I know students also, when it comes to registration, it's one of the things that's on the top of their mind. It's something that they're both very excited about, but also very anxious and nervous about. And so your support of them through this process is really meaningful and important. Students are nervous about what classes to take, will their credits transfer, are they going to stay on track for their major? So they'll have so many questions abound throughout the summer. So I want to acknowledge and thank you for the many ways in which you're going to support students and show up for them and be there for them as they bring so many conflicting feelings with them to orientation. Your advice, your guidance, your insight, your calm help so much in getting them through this experience. So our goal today is to help support you in your support of students. So we are bringing some tools, some resources, and some just general support to help you in the registration season this coming summer. As a visitor on this land, I have a responsibility to acknowledge the grounds on which we gather in the pursuit of higher education. We acknowledge that the University of Minnesota Twin Cities is located on Dakota traditional, ancestral, and contemporary homeland in the land now known as Minnesota. As a community of learning, we are committed to honestly examining the facts of American history, especially regarding the injustices Euro-American communities perpetrated against Dakota, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, and other indigenous peoples during the settler colonization of Minnesota. This reckoning is necessary to identify and dismantle societal norms and systems that benefit certain groups of people at the expense of others. Our presence at this training today is part of an enduring history of violence, forced assimilation, relocation, and colonization of native lands both in Minnesota and around the country. The continued occupation of Indigenous lands and the resulting intergenerational trauma continues to impact Indigenous peoples today. May we consciously reflect on the legacy of colonialism and take meaningful action towards reconciliation, decolonization, and truth-telling. We acknowledge the ways in which settler colonialism is present in the higher education of the university, and we recognize the need for resources of Indigenous peoples and that there must be more done at all levels. I'd like to cover a few logistics today before we dive into our training. We are recording this training and we will be sharing it afterwards and also posting it to the advising website. We're using Zoom to provide captioning for today. We recognize it may not be 100% accurate. You can also go to your show captions button where you can adjust your settings as needed. We're in a Zoom meeting today, so you're able to use chat to submit questions. We often find we also run short on time for questions at orientation training, so we've built in extra time at the end to get questions answered for you. In a second, we will be posting some links to all of our resources and slides for today. I'd like to cover just a quick overview of what our agenda will be consisting of today. We are going to first hear from admissions and transfer credit review. After that, we have some updates from housing and residential life. We have time for a brief break, and then we will move on to the course placement and access conversation. As I had mentioned earlier, we heard at past orientation training sessions that people wanted more time for questions. And so we structurally built in additional time for that for you all because your feedback matters and we wanted to be responsive to it. So as you have questions today, please know from 12 to 12:15, we are going to open up breakout rooms and you can meet with the presenters to ask questions. We will have a breakout room for each of our presenting teams today, and you can move around those breakout rooms to get your questions answered. For our main conversation in the main room today, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Those that are universal and apply to a lot of advisors and units, we'll try to elevate to our presenters. If you have something that's more individual, unit specific, that's a great question to take into the breakouts at the very end. We'll post our training materials for today's session in the chat, and there's a variety of ways in which you can access the content from today. Um, first of all, it's posted on our advisor website, so the zeme.umn.edu/advisor training resources. You can go to that webpage to pull up all of the content from today. It's underneath the annual orientation training heading. Also, if you registered for today's training session, we knew you were interested in the training. We were able to email you yesterday links to all of our resources. And last but not least, of course, we will post in the chat the links to today's content as well. So rest assured, hopefully one of those three methods will work for you. Beyond the content for today's session, we've curated many additional resources that you can use to prepare you for orientation throughout the summer. Our main home folder for orientation this summer is at z.umn.edu/orientation 2026. You're going to find a lot in this folder to prepare you for summer orientation. And I'm going to click on it right now just to give you a small mini tour of what we've curated for you beyond our live sessions for today. So in this folder, and again, if you want to join along, it's z.umn.edu/orientation 2026. You're going to find that we have four folders. We have a part one and a part two folder. The part two folder is for today. That's all of our materials for today. Part one was our Tuesday's training session. And then we also have two additional folders filled with on-demand content for you. So we have updates from campus programs and services, which I gave you a brief tour of on Tuesday. And knowing today that you are here to learn more about registration, I wanted to highlight our Transfer Specialist Updates folder. So if you click on that folder, you might find throughout the summer that you have students who come into your unit or college and express an interest in changing colleges. So it can be really helpful to have quick tips from all of our colleges on how to support students through the change of college experience. So for example, I'm going to click on the 2026 College of Biological Sciences CBS guide. And we have these wonderful handouts that our transfer specialists from around the university put together. For example, you're going to find on our CBS handout that there's admission requirements. You know, these are the main things to do to get into CBS. General tips. So these are kind of the insidery things that advisors need to know about transferring to CBS, along with course registration requirements and course suggestions and tips. So shout out and thank you to our transfer specialists for providing these handouts because I know that they are really helpful for advisors as they're working with students in pursuing colleges they may not be familiar with. All right, I'm going to return to our presentation, and I just want to extend some great gratitude to the many people who have helped out with planning or facilitating or helping for today's training sessions. Believe it or not, this event we started planning back in December. It takes about half a year to pull off. And so the think tank or planning committee for this session, I want to give a huge shout out to, and that is the advisor training group. They're instrumental in identifying the content that you need to know in preparation for summer orientation. So that is Casey Gregerson, Sarah Hilger, Hussein Bandy, Linda Kim, Sarah Campbell, and Emily Stoll. Thanks a million. I'd like to give a shout out to my colleague, Sarah Gibbs, who curated all of those many, many handouts and resources that I just showed you and is providing Zoom support today. So thank you, Sarah, for providing extra support for advisors this summer. And then as you see, we have a lot of presenters today. So I want to give a shout out and thanks to those folks who are taking extra time to share what they know to support our advising community and students throughout the summer. So that really wraps up my introduction, and I'm going to turn things over to our first presenting team, which is Admissions and Transfer Credit Review. Emily and Chris, I know you need to figure out who's sharing slides, so I'll let you introduce yourselves and take it away from here.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily. I work in the Office of Admissions. I know many of you. It's really nice to see faces. Chris, do you want to introduce yourself? Chris is not Martha, in case you were wondering.
I am not Martha. Hi, I'm Chris Smith. I am coming to you from Academic Support Resources. I am on our APAS team, but in today's capacity, I am joining from our Transfer Evaluation System team, otherwise known as TESS. Martha has been under the weather this week, so I am filling in to present today.
I just have a few updates from the admission side. If you want to go to the next slide, Chris, thank you. Okay, first, I always like to start off with just giving folks an idea of where we're at. So this was as of Monday, so the numbers are a little bit different now. We're just at over 1,500 transfer confirmations for fall 2026. That is down about 10% compared to this same time last year. Um, but in the transfer space, believe it or not, there's still quite a bit of time for us to continue to review and admit students, and that is definitely something that we are still doing. So we'll continue to build the biggest class that we can in the coming weeks. June 1st is the final deadline. Some programs will even continue to review and accept students after that point. Um, and we're still accepting confirmations for all programs except a few. Carlson is closed. There's a few majors and CCAPs that are listed there that have reached capacity. And then both medical lab sciences and the nursing program are full on the transfer side. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Okay, so on our end, our job this time of year, our highest priority is to make sure that all transfer students have a full transfer credit evaluation before they go to orientation. We have really fancy reporting that helps us identify these students and prioritize our work. I say we do our best because it's not always 100%. If a student has orientation today on the 21st, but just sent their transcript yesterday, the 20th, we might not get to it in time. But we really do our best to make sure everybody's all set up before orientation. Um, and this is a slide that's coming later, but I'll state it more than once. We are always happy to accommodate any rush requests. So if you're working with a student who did just send their transcript, but it'd be really helpful to get it on there, we're really truly happy to accommodate those as much as we can. But some feedback I got from the planning group was that it might be helpful to talk through what a complete evaluation looks like. So if you can go to the next slide. So if you see something that looks scary like that, an unknown course, if you see that, that means that our job is not done, and that student is likely on our report for someone that we need to clean up. An unknown course means it's either a brand new course that we've never seen before, or it's falling outside of the date range for which we had previously reviewed it. So if you see unknown, that means our job isn't done and we still need to review it for general transfer credit and to determine if it meets a liberal education requirement. And the typical turnaround time for that, pretty much year round, but especially ahead of orientation, is 1 to 2 business days. So courses that have like a generic designator. So they would look on the APAS like biology 1T and a few numbers. Those are courses that we have reviewed, and they have been reviewed for both transfer credit and LE requirements. These types of courses, assuming that there's no rejection note in Transferology Lab, they would be eligible to be submitted to tests, which Chris is going to talk about later, for an equivalency review. But in our office, we just determine if a course can generally transfer and if it meets that LE. And then it's Chris and Martha and the test team that take it from there. But if you see a course with the direct equivalency, that obviously has been fully reviewed and should act on the APAS just like a U of M course. So, like I said, we are really, really, truly always happy to accommodate rush requests. TRFR-update is the best email to use. The admissions email also works, but you might be asked to go through our verification process. If you do the TRFR update, you don't have to do that. I'll also put my email address in the chat, and I'm always happy to hear from advisors, always happy to help. So you can feel free to reach out to me directly, especially if you're not sure who the question should go to. That's always something I'm happy to help navigate. Okay, and then I just wanted a few quick reminders because these questions, especially this time of year, do come up. So only prior domestic bachelor's degrees and then AA degrees or completion of the Minnesota transfer curriculum waive LE requirements. An AA degree from outside of the Minnesota state system do not qualify for the waiver. Um, and then this is kind of more related to degree clearance, but I'm getting this question like several times a day right now. For returning students, if they don't have current term activation, their U of M transcript is not going to update with credit totals. That's my fun bonus fact of the day. I think that's it for me. Is that my last slide? Yes. I can't stay for the breakout room, but I am going to stick around for a little bit. So if anyone has any questions, throw it in the chat and I'm happy to. Thanks, Bobby. Bobby is actually the best. Thanks. I'll turn it over to Chris.
All right, thanks, Emily. So I'll be giving an overview of our test evaluation process, provide some different departmental nuances, and then provide some tips for evaluations as well. This first slide is a visual of our workflow. Ideally, this process actually starts with the student. Transferology is the best place for students and advisors to be looking to see if a course has ever been evaluated at the University of Minnesota. I think there's some information here a little later on about what notes look like within transferology. But if a student is going into transferology, doesn't see any sort of notes, doesn't see an active equivalency, that's a good sign that they should be submitting an evaluation for review. If the course hasn't been reviewed, they submit for review. This is a form on the admissions transfer webpage. Is that right, Emily? I'm getting a nod. Thanks.
Yep, that's right.
From that point, as Emily mentioned, they're doing an evaluation to see if, of course, should be receiving University of Minnesota credit and if a course meets any sort of liberal education or writing intensive requirements. Some of that review has to happen a little bit later, depending on if a course needs further departmental review. At that point, we will see the evaluation form come to our team. We, at that point, will be routing courses to our department evaluators. The forms ideally will have a requested equivalency. We will send those. It won't matter what a student submits as far as what they want, what equivalency they want reviewed. We'll send it off just to make sure that we have checks to see if the equivalency has been received or not. After a course comes back to us, most often approved, which is great, we will then send it back to admissions for additional theme or writing intensive review. We will then, after we get those decisions, update our transfer tables, which then updates APAS as well, and then send off the course decision to the student or requester who submitted that request. We outline our turnaround time on the admissions page as well. These are general turnaround times. Most often things are much quicker. You can see here that the average turnaround time after it reaches our team is 6 days. There are several departments that really help us bring that down, and then there are others that often take a little bit longer. I think we have some information about that later in the slides as well. I'll point out here that international evaluations can take a bit longer. I think we have on the website that those can take up to a month rather than the 2 weeks that we give evaluators for domestic review. We will send every evaluation that we get ones that we don't are going to be evaluations that have already been reviewed, or courses that have already been reviewed for certain equivalencies. If it makes it to our step in the workflow, those are getting sent off. We're looking for extending equivalencies. If there's something specific that a student wants that hasn't been reviewed for before, we try to consider a student's major if they don't have a specific UMN equivalent in mind, to try to find the best steps forward for their evaluation. And then we also bear in mind departments that are housing the courses at the other transfer institutions. So one example I can think of is that if we see a course is a criminal justice course at another institution, we know that at the University of Minnesota, we'll try to send that off to sociology first. Excuse me. So now we're going to start some tips for evaluations. Like I mentioned earlier, please check transferology lab first to see if the course has ever been reviewed. Our rules are created for 5-year time ranges. So if it's only been a year, we try to avoid re-reviewing courses. But if it's been several years, those are often fine for us to be sending off again to see if something has changed with the curriculum or anything like that. I think something very important that I missed a little bit earlier with our workflow is that a full syllabus is required. We do have a handful of departments, math, computer science, sociology, and psychology, that sometimes will accept a course outline, but most often we're looking for a full syllabus from the term in which the student took the course, so that we can have an accurate and clear evaluation of the content that the student learned. A handful of our department evaluators also look for week-by-week schedules so that they can see that there aren't specific topics that they deem important for the curriculum missing. And then, like I've mentioned, it's great when we see evaluations requesting a specific target course. Martha and I know the curriculum pretty well, but not as well as all of our evaluators. And so it's great for us to have a target to send off for first. Getting into some of the department nuance, accounting requests a week-by-week schedule, including information about the schedule, or including information about the textbook chapters that are covered. We will not be sending off evaluations that don't include that information. So we, at that point, would reach out to the requester to obtain that information. If this is provided at the front end of our evaluation, it's just less back and forth that we'll have to have with the requester. Anatomy and physiology. These evaluations are going to multiple departments, so we ask requesters to be proactive. things can take, or these evaluations can take at least a month, mostly because they are going to multiple departments for review. Additionally, one semester of combined anatomy and physiology is being denied by those areas. So if the evaluator if the requester, student, or any of you in advising are seeing that the student has taken both term or 2 semesters of the combined anatomy and physiology sequence, please submit both at the same time. Biology, similar in that multiple semesters are often better to get evaluation for biology 1009. Lab information needs to be included, and online labs are almost always denied for equivalency. Chemistry, similar. Online labs are being denied for equivalency, but may still meet LibEd requirements. We send those off to admissions for evaluation, even if they're denied for the specific chemistry target courses. Physics is the same way. One more additional thing with chemistry, the organic chemistry lab is needing 2 semesters of the lab. So often some institutions have organic chemistry 1 with a lab and organic chemistry 2 with a lab. We would need both of those labs to be evaluated for the organic chemistry lab here at the University of Minnesota. I'm just looking at a couple of questions in the chat. One is, so just for clarification, they can submit multiple syllabi for something like anatomy, physiology. They can. We see a variety of things from students. Sometimes we'll see multiple submissions for that sequence. So we'll see anatomy as one submission and physiology is the another. Otherwise, we see students combining those syllabi into one PDF to then submit both at the same time. We'll split them out just for the sake of the evaluator, but we can see multiple syllabi in the same evaluation without issue. I don't know if you all have any concerns with that, Emily, but we see a variety of ways.
They can do it. They can do 1 submission per course and indicate in the notes field what they're looking for, or they can combine it all together. Whatever is easiest for them. As long as there's a syllabus, we'll send it through.
And then another question I'm seeing here is, during the summer, what backup measures are used for departmental evaluators? Many faculty in this role travel for research and may not be available for multiple weeks. So we do request backups where it's applicable, especially for our high volume departments that see evaluations. I would say most of our evaluators do have a backup that we send off to. Another thing that we kind of do is that with that turnaround time slide earlier, we are sending out reminders if evaluations have been outstanding or have been with an evaluator for, I think we've changed to 20 days now is what we're doing. So we'll send out targeted reminders for those. And if they're out there for much longer than that, we'll start also working with our escalation contacts with the college. Most often it's just for a little nudge, but during the summer in particular, it's so that we can find out if somebody else needs to get the evaluation instead. Seeing anything else? Perfect. And then this is our last slide for departmental nuance. Second language. These courses are often being denied if they're fewer than 4 credits at the transfer institution. And then with the CLA second language requirement, so that 4th semester, most often course is similar. Those courses need to be 4 credits minimum. Even if they have been evaluated and approved to meet the 4th semester course, we'll sometimes get a denial for that. Online and asynchronous, another is just kind of a theme. Many of our department evaluators like to see the in-person courses instead. And then 2 areas that we typically see courses denied are criminal justice and forensic science. We do send criminal justice courses off to sociology for review, but often those are denied because they're missing more of a sociology component. They're often taught by law enforcement individuals and not professors who have sociology credentials. Forensic science, University of Minnesota really only has one area that would evaluate this in anthropology. Even there, this courses are often denied. We will send off to biology for general credit evaluation, but sometimes we'll see that they deny credit for these courses too. And then the last slide that I have is links for our resources. Our email is tes@umn.edu. And we have resources for students, advisors, and our evaluators. Looks like we have a little bit of time if there are more questions.
I don't currently see any in the chat, Chris, so maybe we'll put out one last call for questions before we move on.
Anything for Emily, since she won't be with us this afternoon? I'll be there for the breakout.
So Chris is Martha and me and himself. Wow.
Okay, well, and folks can also put questions in the chat. We can try to answer them live during the session as well if there are any that come up. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and stop this recording, and we will thank Emily and Chris for their presentation, and we are ready to